Hi guys, this one's going to be a very quick one. I've just done a stream from TradingView directly. I haven't done one in a while. For some reason there was some kind of lag in terms of the recording, and therefore even on YouTube the one that we've just recorded has just been kind of lagged out. So the whole video was only 10 minutes anyway, so kind of not the end of the world. What I'll do is I'll jump straight into this one. I'll probably rush it a little bit more, just to kind of cover what I was covering in the last one. So basically how I started off was on the 7th of December. If you come into my TradingView profile, you'd actually see this post. This post was actually a year's worth of Bitcoin kind of calls. And I suppose beyond calls, it was actually more to do with the logic as to why we were, where we are kind of throughout the cycle, throughout the process. So going back to December 2020, I was talking about the correlation and how the kind of relationship in terms of DXY was moving along for Bitcoin. I've personally been trading Bitcoin since 2011, so to see this become institutionalized kind of in front of my eyes has been brilliant. Um, I guess kind of beyond that, I'm also a VC investor, and obviously been trading Forex and stocks for the last 20 years. So I guess to see an instrument kind of become real, I guess, has been brilliant as a whole. So skip forward then into January. This call was on January the 23rd. So I'm just going to hide this. January the 23rd, I was talking about the accumulation or reaccumulation and some of the logic behind that level of reaccumulation. So I actually put a value range in there. And again, if you come into the post, you can see every aspect of what I've talked. It's quite detailed in what I was looking for, but you can see that this was the 23rd of January. So that was the next one. Like I said, I'm going to rush this one a little bit through because I've just done this particular video already, so I'm going to go through it again very quick. Then on the 28th of February this year, I'd actually drawn this orange line, which you'll see this is a value area. Now, I've covered this a lot with the guys in our Discord channel. I'm not going to go into too much detail in terms of the TradingView video, but you're going to get the general gist if you scroll through this as a whole. Okay, so basically, let's play this forward. Obviously, the value area was what I was looking for. And you can see that from the 28th of February into that value range, and if we drew a box there, you'd actually see kind of a cluster before we start to take off, right? So over it, above it, below it, back and forth until we actually start to move away from that range. It was this particular move and the value area that was highlighted there that actually teed up the call for the rocket call. Now, if you have followed me for a while or you've seen any of my YouTube videos, you would have seen this particular move, and the logic behind that was based on the value area there. So all we actually had was we had a perfect move down to A. So from the call there, calling it short, ultimately up to B. Now I had an 8 hour kind of tool that I was using there, but I was actually working on the daily for the bigger range. So we actually had 2,500 move beyond that, which ultimately meant that with B being 2,500 higher, C was actually 2,500 higher, and then we had D also 2,500 higher than the initial plan. So E was always going to be the extension. That's based on the same value area that I've just spoken about. And as you can see, as we move up and away from that, both the key levels, from before, from over here on the left, were actually utilized as support and resistance before that break and breakthrough again. So that then led on and into the roadmap. The roadmap was the 26th of March. Basically, from there, we had a move down, is what I was expecting. So you can see the 26th of March there. The move on down into the value area range, we got that. We ultimately moved up. And therefore, coming into kind of more recent times, this is what I wanted to cover, quite quickly before going into the weekend. So basically where we are from there, I guess I started getting questions and I started getting people ask me about the calls, why the calls, and I put some educational content. So again, if you click on any of the images here, you'll actually see that these were all to do with the education as to why. We'll obviously go into a bit more depth within our Discord, and obviously then for the subscribers, I'll probably do another video tomorrow with a little bit more depth as to where we are right now on the chart. So obviously education, and then basically this one, right? So On September the 30th, if I zoom in, on September the 30th, it actually forecasted this level up here. Now you can see this particular one up there. It was in a price range that we'd never been to before. And again, not really going to go into any detail as to why I was calling this, but basically a month later, we actually come up to this particular level. So you can see the 27th of October there. We tag the level practically to the pip, and then we ultimately start to move down. I know from there we moved back up. We had a bit of a fake up above it, but if you zoom in on this level to where we are right now, you'll actually see this was used then as resistance a second time before the bigger move down. So, over the last year, Bitcoin's done nothing that we haven't really expected or anticipated. We had a very low volume move up from the 28 level, or 28.8, and therefore it's done nothing, kind of unexpected. It's been a kind of a rubbish move in the grand scheme of things. And lo and behold, we've come back down exactly as planned. Monthly three for me is now the start, and we are likely then to go. So I'll come into the charts in a second. I've also covered obviously the BTC shorts and longs. This is the leverage trading. This is the COT data, and why this doesn't actually refer to institutional guys getting wrecked. There's actually a bit more depth to that. Okay, so that's where we are. That's what I've done. Obviously, a lot of this you can find, for free in terms of TradingView. Just come into my profile, click the link. I obviously cover a lot of this in a bit more depth on YouTube as well. So where we are right now, and where I think we're going to be going over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks. Obviously, I think volume's going to dry up a little bit coming into Christmas. There's going to be a lot of people thinking, shall I take something on or not? There's going to be a lot of guys already sitting in profit, taking it off the table. And therefore, I think it's going to be a pretty dull time in the grand scheme of things. So I guess what have I got to cover here? So we've got some angles and some levels there. Kind of less relevant. This is more for the guys in the group. We've got some December levels. Um, this was kind of interesting. It was more smaller time frame type stuff. This was just where we were seeing some pullbacks come to, and then why. We then had a value area range. So this goes back a little bit in time, and the value area range that we were seeing was down to this particular box here. And then I think this is where I was seeing the first part of potentially an A. And then I think what I've seen from the software that we now use is potentially, if we were to look at this being the high, there could be easily a 5 wave move, something in sitting in this. However, the software Advanced Get was actually suggesting this is the 3 in terms of that monthly, and therefore we've got an expanded flat down there being a 3-3-5 move down to this level. So I think one way or the other, the one thing that kind of stays consistent for me is the fact that this potentially is an A, or A isn't quite completed yet, depending on where this new candle now comes from. So that's the next thing. And like I said, sorry to kind of rush through these, but this was kind of the idea. We then had this value area in terms of the point and figure projection. So I think we're going to get some kind of accumulation down a bit lower. 37.5 to 31.5 makes a bit of sense to me. That also fits true with the larger value area that we've already mapped out over here. So I think for me, that's the ideal value area, if we are now in a 3. So the question is going to be potentially over the weekend. I'd like to see another rise first. Then I'd like to see a drop down. I'm not saying that's going to be over the weekend, but I'd like to see a little bit of a move up now to kind of keep this momentum going where we are right now. Is there anything else to cover? Let me just see. We had the accumulation distribution, the accumulation from high. That was quite nice. Into the corrective, right? So basically, on the weekly time frame, going back to my roadmap in March, you'll actually see what we've done so far is no different than as expected. The only thing for me that's really changed is question mark now on whether or not this was actually the monthly 3, and I'm just pulling that down a little bit deeper as a whole. So I think, overall, pretty decent, pretty happy with what's going on at the moment. I'm still not a buyer in this market. Um, I think, this is what I'll cover in a bit more depth over the weekend as to some key levels and potentially what next. So I'm going to finish this stream off as we are. Thanks for watching. If you watched the first one, again, sorry for covering the same stuff It was just to do with the screen lag. So I hope you enjoyed, and great weekend. Merry Christmas if you don't watch any other streams between then. So have a good one. Bye.